Tabik Basa Aga Kita Semua. That means greetings to all of you in Iban language. And that's my mother tongue. I'm from Kuching, Sarawak, East Malaysia. I represent. Okay. Is there any Sarawakians in the hall? Or I'm the only, oh, that's one. Yay. Okay. So hello everyone again. My name is Venessa Sambai Usek, and I'll be the moderator for session 4, Women in Digital Economy and Technology. And I'm the managing director of Owl and Badger Research, located in Kuching, Sarawak. And I'm here in the capacity of the president of Teach for Malaysia Alumni Board 2022. Okay, so I'm just going to give some facts. UNICEF reports that over 90% of jobs worldwide have a digital component, and this was back in 2019, which is before the pandemic. And surprisingly, according to the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, in 2019, more than 50% of women worldwide are offline. And globally, women are 8% less likely to own a mobile phone than men, which is a contradiction to what we have here, because all of us have a mobile phone and on our laptops. Okay, and the pandemic that happened in 2020 even pushed us further to adapt to digital components in order to survive. And this rings true. Like yesterday, during the opening keynote address, Dato' Sri Haja Nancy Shukri, Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Malaysia, shared about how basket weavers in Malaysia sell their products online. It's on an e-craft platform, e-commerce, in order to make means. And the major supporters are actually us women. And other than that, like work in corporate sectors and all of that, even teachers, we start doing Zoom meetings. Even our children are learning online. You must have heard stories in Sabah and Sarawak where children have to hike, need to, ride a boat in order to get access to internet connectivity to study. And other small business entrepreneurs, they have to use live streaming, TikTok, virtual platforms in order to sell the components. I think women, they are very entrepreneurial, I would say. That's like part of our blueprint, DNA blueprint. And then UNESCO in 2021 highlights that while some jobs require advanced digital skills, most jobs and daily activities only require basic digital literacy to participate in digital economy. So when we talk about digital literacy or digitally literate, it means that we are able to participate fully in the digital world, be safe online, and able to develop critical and analytical thinking. And now globally, we talk about the digital economy as a new economy. Physical transaction to virtual transaction. And I think some of us spend most of our time doing online shopping instead of going to physical stores. But I still do physical shopping because I need to try the clothes on. I think that's just me being old school. And also physical banknotes to cryptocurrency. Like, since I'm from Sarawak, I'm just going to mention one of the state government initiatives, which is Sarawak Pay, where you can pay your electricity bill using an app. So imagine the longhouses residents in Kapit, Sarawak can pay for their electricity bill using an app, yeah? Okay, so for today's discussion, we're going to explore the main question, and the main question is, are we women ready to participate fully in the digital world? And with us, there are 3 panelists to explore these overarching questions. We have Ms. Rinalia Abdul Rahim, and she's the Senior Vice President of Strategy, Communication and Engagement at the Internet Society, ISOC, Germany. And then we have Ms. Oyungerel, President of Mongolian Women's Federation. And then we also have Miss Veronica Cretu, and she's the Good Governance and Open Data Expert, Innovating Governance Association, Austria. She's with us online right now via Zoom. Hello. Hello, Veronica. Okay, so before we start, I'm going to explain the structure of this discussion. There will be three main areas that we're going to discuss on. So the first would be issues that women face in digitalization and artificial intelligence. And secondly is our role as women in shaping digital economy. And the last one is on niche areas that we can explore in the new digital world. So before that, I'm going to open it to the audience to think about, as women leaders and also allies, because we have men in the room, we need to think about, oh, hello, I've seen familiar faces, to think about how do we support each other in advancing the gender equality agenda, especially in the digital realm, okay? And with that, to start our discussion, I would like to welcome Ms. Rinalia to share her thoughts on this, and we shall play her video. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Rinalia Abdul Rahim, speaking to you from the Internet Society. It is a pleasure to be able to share my thoughts and contribute to this session on women in digital economy and technology. I'm going to start with a fact about the space industry. According to the UN, only about 1 in 5 of people employed in the space industry are women. That's internationally, and the proportion is roughly the same as 30 years ago. The same ratio, 1 in 5, also applies to women in cybersecurity today. We can look across technology sectors, which includes IT and AI. The general trend on women in technology can be summarized as this. Women still lag behind men in 3 areas: workforce representation, leadership roles, and pay. That is not to say that there has not been progress for women in technology, but the progress has not been impressive across the board, despite amazing stories about the outliers. So as the world moves towards a future that is driven more than ever by technology, the issues that will matter to women, to my mind, will still center very much on 3 things: inclusion, opportunity, and pay. Plus an effective support system at home, at school, and at work. Are there niches for women in the digital economy? There will always be areas of work or professions that will attract more women. What we need to focus on is creating niches for women across all areas of the digital economy. Women and girls need to know that there is a place for them in all aspects of technology. Their role is not just to participate, but also to shape the future. What will matter in creating these niches are the incentives and support systems that encourage women's participation and advancement. Success will require a whole ecosystem approach. Fundamentally, women ought to be able to go into any field and pursue their passion and interest, including to boldly go where no man has gone before. Decision makers in both government and business need to enable this. It should be the thing that keeps them up at night. Because countries need women at the forefront of technological design, development, and deployment. Women's participation, their point of view, and leadership add value. They add diversity and a competitive edge. These are all factors that benefit the whole society and economy. Both men and women need to be active champions of women in technology. To do so, we need to discard the unwritten notions of hierarchy, misconceptions, and biases that keep women behind. What I'd like to do next is address gaps in 3 areas: the internet, cybersecurity, and AI. First, the internet. The internet is for everyone. This vision drives people at the Internet Society to make the internet bigger and stronger so that everyone can have access. Access to the internet means access to opportunities for people. Yet we know that nearly 3 billion people around the world still do not have access. The majority of them are women and girls. The economic and social cost of this digital gender gap can be high. There is evidence that the gap hampers economic growth and fuels further gender inequality. A study by the Web Foundation on 32 countries found that because women were unable to contribute to the digital economy, governments have missed out on $1 trillion in GDP. Billions in lost taxes could have been invested to improve education, health, and housing for their populations. Also, the Alliance for Affordable Internet reported that many governments did not adopt policies needed to bridge the digital gender gap. A failure to deliver access for everyone means a failure to realize everyone's potential to both develop and contribute. Closing the digital gender gap must be a priority for all governments, particularly after the hard lessons of the COVID-19 pandemic. We need to enable women as both contributors and drivers of the global digital economy. The second area I want to touch on is cybersecurity. Our world's cybersecurity needs are growing. The desire for the Internet of Things, for example, is amplifying this need. Cybersecurity professionals are our defenders. They are our frontliners. They track and address digital risks and online threats. They support secure and resilient countries, economies, businesses, and societies. We need to increase the number of women in cybersecurity. They currently only comprise about 25% of the cybersecurity workforce globally. Avenues for women to pursue education, careers, and mentorship in cybersecurity are expanding, but more needs to be done, especially outside of the US and the EU. In addition, we need to ensure that women can contribute meaningfully across the spectrum of cybersecurity design, defense, and response. A 2021 report from the UN Institute for Disarmament Research has made clear recommendations on gender approaches to cybersecurity, which every decision maker should pay attention to. Improving cybersecurity requires addressing gendered assumptions, biases, and omissions. By doing this, the cybersecurity field can become a real place of inclusion for women, and it will also lead to an improvement in the security of people of all gender identities and expressions online. This is important because ultimately, everyone should have access to an internet that is both secure and trustworthy. The final area I want to touch on is artificial intelligence, or AI. AI adoption is on the rise. People are both excited and worried about it, and for good reason. AI is believed to have the potential to benefit society greatly, but it is also known to carry significant risks. AI deployment could be harmful to parts of the population if AI systems are not designed to be inclusive. The AI landscape faces growing concerns about bias, data privacy, and lack of representation. The danger is that it will not enable the kind of inclusion that women need, particularly as women's representation in the AI industry is only 26% in 2020. We need to ensure that emerging technologies that are transformative, like AI, help us reach greater diversity and gender parity, and not more barriers to inclusion. The World Economic Forum recently published a white paper as guidance on how to go about achieving equitable and inclusive AI outcomes. The blueprint calls for ensuring inclusion by design in the AI lifecycle and the development of an inclusive AI ecosystem. It also calls for fusing the two so that they are mutually reinforcing. This is not at all easy to do, but it has to be done, and all stakeholders must engage in the process. In closing, there is a lot to do to support women in technology and the digital economy. The digital gender gap must be bridged. Girls and women need to be empowered with access to the internet and technology. We need to emphasize inclusion by design and bring diversity to the development and deployment of technologies. We need to place women at the center of transformative technologies so that women are just not affected by these forces, but are part of shaping them too. We need to put in place effective support systems for women to sustain them on their journey that includes a whole life cycle and ecosystem approach. It will take all of us in society to make it happen. and it will have a positive impact on our collective future. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rinalia. I think what I can summarize from that video presentation is that I think the most important part is on inclusion by design. I think that's really important. And in order to move forward in getting our voices heard, I think as women leaders, we need to make sure that every table, there's a seat for us. I think that's really important and we should champion that. And I'm just going to give another fact. In regards to inclusion by design, it says that Usek report that women frequently involved in development of digital products, solution and content, as it is designed mostly for men. So from there, we know that there's a need to emphasize women to be part of that decision-making process, to be part of that content development and also planning. And I think that's the reason why we're here today, right? To identify what are the concrete action that we can take in order to give space, give opportunities for all of us to be able to participate in the digital economy and technology. And with that, I'm going to continue our discussion. I'm going to invite Ms. Oyungerel here to introduce herself, and then we're going to play another video. Over to you. Yeah.
Selamat pagi. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank Jessica Tang and other organizers for giving me the opportunity to present as one of the speakers at this important event, and I am honored to take part of the event as a speaker to represent my country. In my given session, I will be discussing Mongolian lifestyle and culture that have been deeply related to nomadic factories for thousands of years, and I have prepared a video presentation to talk about this issue that pastoral women have been facing in Mongolian society for a long time. I hope you will get the most out the video presentation. Thank you.
The participation of women in the market economy is important for development of any country. It becomes a major factor of the economic growth. In Mongolia, increasing women's market participation is not only thing to increase household income, also it has a benefit to preserve the national traditional nomadic lifestyle in globalization. The issue of the supporting women's market participation has become an issue of the Mongolian labor market and women's development and social participation. So the main content of the presentation is to mention the importance of the advantage of the digital economy, innovation, and the technology solutions based on the problem how to support market participation of the rural pastoral women. For Mongolia, the supporting women's work is at a relatively normal level, which means that Mongolian women are able to cope with the workload, household work, and participation in the labor market at the same time. The digital economy, which is getting major marketing trend in the modern market, needs to be seen as an advantage in today's our market too. Using the technological advantage, innovative solutions, business platforms have a positive effect. The GDP also it will contribute to a national program of the healthy ecological food supply. For the digital economy and the technology in the country, our main goal is to provide a certain gap in the market for the labor of the women who live in the traditional animal husbandry and the milking with the nomadic culture, and to help bring the family business and the self-employed work into the market. Also, the promoting women's employment through the digital economy solutions, taking advantage of the modern technology, is not difficult one for us. We have some advantage of entering digital marketing. Internet and social network are widely used in Mongolia. Establishing communication and social networks using on mobile phone is open to everyone in a cheap price range. Everyone has a complete secondary education. There is almost no illiteracy. Those are the advantage of our marketing. For the demand of the milk products, based on these many advantages and the factors, bringing the milk products into the market is also important for providing the population with the healthy food. Because today the concern is the source of all types of the cancer is caused by food insecurity. It has become very high in Mongolia. As mentioned above, to develop our business clusters by introducing digital economy solutions is an essential. The benefits are increasing household income, reduce migration from rural area to cities, providing population with a healthy food, and then doing some business to have cash from remote areas will have a positive effect on family planning too. We have some advantage of our culture. Today we Mongolians have a full opportunity to set an example in the market, making a real contribution to the supply from environmentally friendly factories that produced ecological products and healthy dairy products to the world market. Because we have such an opportunity, we are exploring the possibilities of using digital economy channel solutions to directly interact with the consumers, to meet the market demand and then produce them according to the market demand. Today, in our market experience, is the easiest sales channel to find customers is a Facebook or social networking. Therefore, we are trying to create a women's labor market based on the principle of the market supply and demand, not within the framework of the one-time project. We consider it will create many positive attitudes in the society. We have taken some examples of the western part in Mongolia. Mongolia is one of the few countries that has preserved its traditional animal husbandry, and it believed that preserving its traditional way of should be part of the country's cultural policy to preserve its nomadic culture. As an example, we included the herdsmen and the milking work in the western region, which is 1,400 to 1,600 kilometers away from Ulaanbaatar. It is a whole province. They milk the yak, and the western region has over 180,000 yaks. The milk is the sweetest and the fattest high protein milk, which tasty The much tested ecological products data. However, there is not marketplace to sell it. But how do they sell and produce the milk? They use the popular Facebook page to sell dairy products. They send the processed products to the center of the province to sell on the wholesale market in a very cheap price. Producers of the other household are not possible to sell their products and they cooperate direct sales market. Also, some of the villages have small milk factories, which is very small number of the factories, not very enough for all the families. To sum up, recently there has been an increase in the market demand for ecological green products, especially products made using traditional methods. Farmers are also producing more range of the milk and dairy products, and they package them in a market. It means modern ecological standards, and they are selling the products in some social popular network to get the cash. This issue has become the core factor to develop digital economy and introduce any possible business platform in the dairy market for women. So we have an ambition to have small factories or milk producers from the horse family in the rural area, then to connect them to any digital market.
That's a very interesting case study from Mongolia. And actually, Oyungerel mentioned to me that the nomadic people in Mongolia is about 300 million, all of them, and 40% of them are women. So imagine that they're selling all these products, homegrown products on social media platform. That's actually quite entrepreneurial, right? Thank you so much. And I was just thinking about how we can um, adopt this to help the small business women, like all these small, medium entrepreneurs. I was just thinking of the Orang Asli communities, the Orang Asal communities in Sabah and Sarawak, where they sell their anyaman, beads, and puak kumbu online. That would be very interesting. And I just remember this one. I would share an experience that I had when we went to Baleh Kapit to meet these master weavers of puak kumbu, and they actually sell their puak kumbu on Shopee, and it's quite an interesting initiative, I would say, but it's also for me as an indigenous person to sell something so sacred on a Shopee platform. It's also quite a internal battle for me. So that would be an interesting question to explore in the future. Okay, and with that, I'm going to invite Miss Veronica to actually share some thoughts on are we women ready to participate in the digital world? What do you think, Miss Veronica? Over to you.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, good. Distinguished moderators, speakers of the panel, and participants of the World Women Economic and Business Summit 2022, greetings from a very early Vienna, because it's 4 a.m. here. I will try to speak a bit quieter because everyone in the house is sleeping, so will do my best not to wake up the whole household. But really, I wish I was there with you in Malaysia in person. I had an opportunity years back to be in your country, and I was deeply impressed with your culture, with your innovations, and with the kind-hearted people that you have. So thank you very much for the invitation to join today's session. Congratulations to the organizers for this timely event. I spent very brief about my background. I spent about a decade working on the internet governance, going back to 2006 to the first Internet Governance Forum. I spent another decade working on the open government and open data. And many of you in the room may know about the Open Government Partnership Initiative. I am a former steering committee member of that initiative and currently an envoy. Along the way, throughout, I think, more than 20 years of my professional experience, education and training, and our moderator mentioned digital competences frequently. So education and training were some cross-cutting elements of my work. I conducted trainings with policymakers, civil society organizations, community leaders, women leaders, and girls on various thematic areas, from critical thinking, again, something that was mentioned earlier today, to citizen engagement in policymaking, open data, AI, community development, you name it. I'm currently a member of Council of Europe Committee on Artificial Intelligence, and we heard Rinalia, mentioning the importance and one of the key pillars of the digital evolution, let's put it this way, being artificial intelligence and the opportunities, but also challenges that AI pose. So in the Council of Europe, we are exploring the ways AI could be, taken, and human rights perspectives is brought into that dimension. I'm also representing. I'm part of the Tromsø Convention Committee, also of the Council of Europe. I'm based in Austria, but I'm originally from Moldova. If you've never been to Moldova, Google for it. It's a small, tiny country sandwiched between Romania and Ukraine, and women in our country have been doing a lot on the digital economy in the past years. When we talk about women in digital or women in digital economy, I think we can spend days and weeks, and we will not fully manage to explore all the implications of this subject, given how complex it is. However, in this very brief introductory remarks, I want to touch on a few aspects. I think interconnection between digital and gender equality is really important, as well as should consider when they look for solutions that are centering women and girls at the core of. It is important that when we talk about women in digital, we depart from gender equality indicators. And it was fantastic to hear already some references to gender equality earlier, because the world, unfortunately, is not on track in achieving gender equality by 2030. And the social and economic challenges that have been emerging from the pandemic made the situation even more complicated. At the same time, however, evidence shows that investments in women's employment, health, and education are directly correlated with more successful development outcomes. And experience shows that engaging women as political and social actors can change policy outcomes by making institutions more representative and perform better. According to the really fresh report, Sustainable Development Goals report of this year, 2022, despite women's leadership in responding to COVID, for example, they still trail men in securing the decision-making positions they deserve. As of early this year, January 22, the global share of women in lower and single houses of national parliaments reached 26.2%, up from 22.4% in 2015. So women's share is slightly over 1/3 in local governments. At this pace, can you imagine it would take us another 40 years for women and men to be represented equally in national parliaments? So working women, including those in managerial positions, have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. Many have had their hours reduced or left the workforce altogether due to increased unpaid care work at home. In 2019, before the pandemic, women accounted for 39.4% of total employment, while in 2020, they represented nearly 45% of global employment losses. So the share of women in managerial positions worldwide saw only slight improvement from 2015 to 2019. And gender equality, these are important figures, because gender equality and digital development are strongly interconnected. We cannot analyze, we cannot review, reflect on this digital economy without not considering the digital equality indices, data, and so on. We know that digital technologies hold immense potential to improve people's economic and social outcomes. We've just seen the wonderful example from Mongolia. We know how technology, how digital is shaping and framing and changing our societies. Yes, yet challenges still remain regarding women's access to and use of this technology. Globally, men are 21% more likely to be online than women, and this figure rises to 52% in low-income countries. Research also shows that among barriers that keep women and girls offline are high device and data costs, lower digital skills, affordability is an issue, security, restrictive social norms, to just name a few. And this have cost developing countries about $1 trillion in the past years. For women all over the world, ICTs can be leveraged, and we know it from our personal experiences. So they can be leveraged for personal security, better access to education and jobs, financial inclusion, or access to basic healthcare and education. And when it comes to climbing the career pyramid or ladder in the IT sector, it's not easy either. For women technologists, and I think Rinalia mentioned, and gave interesting data, the path to the top is much more difficult in the industry itself, given the biases, the different standards, workplace cultures that marginalize women overall. So why do we still need to work harder, and why digital matters for gender equality? Because number one, it creates opportunity or opportunities. We know that internet is a great enabler. It can create unprecedented opportunities for female entrepreneurs. They can enter global markets for the first time. Again, we've seen this wonderful example from Mongolia. So ICT provides opportunities to boost small business growth by establishing level playing field that enables all businesses, regardless of the size, location, or sector, and everyone is on equal footing to compete in a global market. This is what a technology can give us. Programs, however, through partnerships, can help realize the opportunities that ICT can offer by boosting skills, equipping women with digital devices, and providing training that helps women teach their respective communities how to make the most of these tools. And this is where the importance of the multi-stakeholder collaboration in this efforts and showcasing these business initiatives that are using ICT to support women's participation in the workforce is key. Examples like the one that we've just seen from Mongolia are key to be promoted, to be shared, and to be replicated further. Number two, it builds capacity. So digital ecosystem, ICTs can give women access to basic needs such as healthcare and education. And here, let's not forget about the important role that private sector plays. It plays a pivotal role in investing in community-oriented training, in deploying infrastructure, and delivering a wide range of ICT services to meet these needs. For our countries to enhance the use of enabling technology, we must create an enabling environment for sustainable investment. And number three, understanding. Women are currently less likely than men to use or own digital technologies, with gaps larger among youth and those over 45 years old. This is what recent data shows. ICT improves efficiency, enhances coordination, and improves the quality of information that is being gathered and shared for the development planning. For countries to leverage ICT to promote the empowerment of women, governments need to be well informed about how the ICT ecosystem works in practice, the barriers to access, and how the emerging challenges could be overcome. Stakeholders working in the field should be able to regularly assess the impact of policies on infrastructure, applications, services, and user engagement on the overall ICT ecosystem at the country level. We should be having, dashboards and scorecards, indicators to help track progress around the reforms that are related to the ICT and to digital transformation, to e-transformation of our societies. We should be conducting those assessments regularly and build the next steps and plan and develop the next projects and interventions based on those. And finally, to conclude, when we think about women in digital economy, we need to ensure that we have the minimum preconditions in place. Institutions. We need to be asking ourselves what institutions we have in place for promoting the uptake of ICT, digital for development, across all sectors, how those institutions are adapted to the needs of the girls and women, and how ICT as an industry is inclusive and holistic and allows women to be active stakeholders in it. Number two, laws and regulations. How are our laws and regulations reflecting the emerging developments? Are they comprehensive? Are they backed up by action plans? Are they monitored easily? Economic policies, infrastructure, human capital. I think today more than ever, we are wondering and thinking about how we build human capital. Because the ultimate success or failure in building an inclusive digital ecosystem for all depends on the digital literacy of the citizens, businesses, and governments in general, as well as the ICT skills of the workforce in particular. Today, digital literacy, data literacy is becoming a core skill, as the majority of jobs within developed economies require some digital or data skills, while less than a third of the global population possesses the necessary skill set. So this concerns not only the skills in the workplace, but across society as a whole, as lack of ICT and digital literacy can hinder the uptake of new digital services and deepen the digital divide, thus keeping women and girls outside the ecosystem. So these pillars of institutions, laws and regulations, infrastructure, and human capital are areas where we need more involvement of women. And thus we have more chances to build our digital ecosystem balanced, inclusive. We can achieve digital by design, and inclusion could become a mindset, or should become a mindset, at all levels. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Veronica. Ms. Veronica, I do have some follow-up questions. Firstly, I think you mentioned about having scorecards and dashboard on this. I was just wondering, like, how do you make these data to be publicly accessible and also easy to understand, because like certain parts of the data only certain high-level management actually understand about it. How about the public? I was just thinking of small business. How do they make use of the data? Do you have any thoughts on that?
It depends. I think it varies from country to country. Just to share with you the example of Moldova, during 2016-2018, we developed a governance reform scorecard. So that was a public interface, a scorecard that allowed ordinary citizens and businesses, small and medium enterprises, to have access to data about key priority reforms of the government. At that point in time, together with the community, we identified what is the kind of data that the society needs. What is the data that citizens are interested in? What data do businesses need? And depending on the regulatory framework, we together with public agencies, public authorities, we mapped data that is openly available, and we formulated specific indicators that allowed us to build this scorecard. And in, as I said, multi-stakeholder approach, we got commitment from central public authorities to deliver us the data on those indicators on a regular basis. I think dashboards and scorecards are really fantastic tools to help anyone at the country level interested in tracking a certain area of reform to have access to the data. I think here we also talk about the open data portals. We know that in the past decade, several governments across the globe have been working hard to release more open data, more open government data. Many adopted the Open Data Charter. We have like more than 100 countries that are signatories to the Open Data Charter. We have governments that have adopted national legislation or methodologies for open data, for public information, public sector information reuse. All of those, as I said in my intervention, laws and regulations is an important pillar. This is one of the key ingredients, to put it this way, of the digital transformation. And there, where you have a strong political will for data being disclosed, you can achieve really, really good results and really good progress. And probably the most important element, why do we need to have access to the data? One, because data should be at the core of policy making. It's part of the evidence-based approaches in design of policies at all levels. And number two, governments have to be aware that the more data they disclose, the more data they make available, the more the more opportunities they generate on the market, on one hand, and the level of trust in the government, according to research, increases. Transparency, accountability is an important ingredient of a democratic society. So governments need to keep in mind that everything that is not state secret, closed data should be put out there in the open for citizens, for businesses, for women-led organizations, SMEs to use it in order to make the right decisions for the sector, for a thematic area at this moment in time. So that would be my quick answer to that.
That's very good insight, Miss Veronica. And you talk about making it publicly accessible so that people can actually make decision out of it. And I was just wondering, like, because you mentioned about digital literacy, and one component of that is actually to develop analytical and also critical thinking. And if we want to make the right decision in respective organization, we should be able to read and also make recommendation based on the data, right? And you talk about human capital. Is there any like suggestion or concrete action that we women can take in order to be digitally literate, to read and analyze data and make informed decisions? What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you very much. It's a very pertinent question. I think, yes, again, we can, every single pillar that I mentioned, we can spend weeks, deep diving into those. And human capital and competences, digital competences are an important, again, pillar of the broad ecosystem. Without it, the ecosystem would be unbalanced and handicapped, if I can put it this way. What we can do as women, we can look for any opportunities to get ourselves trained, to understand how to work with data, to understand, first of all, what is data, how does it look like, especially when we talk about open government data, what are the formats, how you clean it, how you scrap it, how you create data visualizations. For those who have never done it, there are online courses, there are online programs. It has been in the online space for almost a decade now. So Google for that, look for that. I'm sure in Malaysia you have organizations, you have tech companies, you have big ICT-driven companies that provide this kind of training. So look for that. Also, I think because for the scorecards, for scorecards and dashboards, you need a demand. You need citizens to be demanding the governments, to disclose this kind of data. And of course, for that, you need citizen who is able to think critically, who understands, the value of the data. And of course, where do we get the citizens from? The citizens are graduates of our school system. So I think one of the biggest challenges that we face at the moment globally is a decline in the quality of education around the globe. And critical thinking has to be embedded as part of the curriculum at all levels, starting from kindergarten, maybe primary schools, and all the way to the higher education, because it's with critical thinking that you take a citizen through a higher order cognitive processes, and it's through critical thinking that people are able to understand information, especially in the era of so many fake news and manipulation and propaganda. Analyze, interpret it, contrast, make synthesis, and finally make decisions. So I think at all levels, both in the academia, in the educational sector, in the government, in parallel, all stakeholders have to come together to understand how the quality of education in the formal sector, in the formal educational sector, but also in lifelong learning programs, in the programs for the civil servant capacity building. How do we bring this element of critical thinking? And there are programs around the world. There are initiatives on critical thinking. I think, again, if anyone is interested, I'm happy to share separately, but there has been a lot of work done. I think it's just, again, it goes back to the political will across key institutions to adopt this kind of approach, to try to develop this kind of mindset, be it in the public institutions, in the private sector, in the academia, you name it.
Thank you for that. I agree. I think multi-stakeholders, partnerships, and collaboration is really important in order to advance this gender equality in the digital realm. And before that, I'm just going to open the floor for any comments from the audience or any questions to Ms. Veronica. Any? Yes, we have one lady over there. Please proceed to the mic stand.
I'm Leoy Kam. I'm for, definitely, that internet and technology is a direction all of us have to go in. But today I want to ask this question. In the field of women, there is also the dark side. With internet, we hear of scams for women. So as we push the internet technology access, we find that women, especially the young ones, are being targeted for the dark world. And elderly women, because they live longer, they are lonely, scam of their life savings. I just wonder, is there any group or initiatives that deals with this, and how do they address this?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So any initiatives that relates to fighting misinformation? So it's also part of digital literacy, I would say, because we must be able to be safe online. Do you have any thoughts on that, Ms. Veronica, before I open it to the floor to answer the questions?
Yes, I think in the past years, if you look at the Council of Europe, there have been several guides, trainings, capacity building programs developed and implemented across the Council of Europe member states. In my home country, Moldova, we had several initiatives that were called Stop False or Stop, for example, fake news, and different organizations were leading on different initiatives to clarify, the fake news and the false information that has been distributed in the online space vis-a-vis specific issues. But to the question that the participants asked about the dark side, and the vulnerabilities for the young girls, for the young women, but also for the elderly, I think these days there are more and more programs in place to help with, again, this is digital, it goes to digital literacy, it goes to the need for critical thinking, it goes to the need for an independent thinking, because once you have those competencies in place, you are able to navigate in that complex online environment. UNFPA, United Nations Population Fund, has been working in Moldova, but also in other parts of the globe, conducting training for elderly, and they were doing this in partnership with private sector, with big mobile operators in the country. So they were providing gadgets to the elderly, and at the same time they were providing training and capacitating them how to use the gadgets for accessing public services, for example, how to make online payments, but also, the cyber security and security elements in place. So yes, indeed, there are worldwide, there are several practices I know across Latin America, for example. Colleagues in Kenya have also been working on capacitating both young generation but also elderly. And as I said, in Eastern Partnership, in the region I come from, there has been a lot of effort in the past decade. So indeed, I think we need to talk more about the practices that exist, share those, and see what is feasible and what could be adapted and implemented in your respective context. You definitely, you should not start from scratch, because we've been for how many years in the digital space and talking about digital. It's been more than 15 years now of active policy debates. So we should be building on those, because there is a lot of stock taking that we need to do as we move forward, especially with the emergence of AI technology. We really need to rapidly move to speeding up on training, on literacy building, capacitating different categories of population as soon as possible.
That's very good. It sounds like there's a lot of gaps that we need to fill, and it's not only gender, but also edge gaps. So there's quite a lot of things that we have to do together. And I was just wondering among the audience if you have any maybe initiative that's related to digital literacy. Is there any, or any comments that you would like to make on this? I can share that one of our Teach for Malaysia alumni, they actually work with some of the journalists in the country to develop digital literacy modules, but those modules are actually catered for students. I've not seen any that's related to the elderly, and I think that's quite a good initiative if anyone would like to take it up. So thank you for that. Yeah. Okay, there's another participants who would like to ask question.
Hello, hi.
Hello.
Actually, it's not to ask a question, but to take up the opportunity that you have offered, right? So I am the founder and the managing director of Digital Way Academy, which is an education social enterprise. And currently we are developing a new product, which is a complete career launch education solution into data science. Yeah, and what we're doing differently, we are actually studying the entire industry. What does the industry need? What is the market lacking? And we're designing a program, right, that is covering all of the industry relevant technical knowledge. And beyond that, right, it's also really about the wider set of competencies. It's also about thinking skills, about your mindset, about your values, the principles, how you design your behavior, etc. So we're also integrating that into the program, and it also comes with a job preparation course at the end as well as mentorship by industry experts whom we train with neuroscience-driven learning methods. Yeah, so this is an upcoming a product that we're developing, and we really hope that this can bring impact to the society in developing digitally literate people, and also to contribute productively in the digital space. Yeah, so thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
Just one question on that. Who's your target audience for this program?
Right, so our target audience would be lifelong learners. So we recommend for people who have completed secondary education and beyond to take this on, because before that, then the mathematics and English may be a bit of a struggle for them in the program. But definitely we're working on trying to make that as accessible as possible in the future to cut across different age groups as well. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about your program? I'm just curious because you mentioned that there's some mentorship from the industry leaders. And how does it look like? Is it physical program or virtual?
Yeah, so it's actually a virtual program because we want to make it as accessible as possible, right? Coming back to it, and also to be able to flexibly fit into any people's lives, because we all have different schedules, we all have different careers, different lifestyles. So how do we fit that learning into our life? How can we make it flexible and also hold the learner accountable in the learning journey at the same time? So the program is online, and it's flexible, ranging from 3 months full-time to around 8 months part-time or more. And in terms of the mentors, we are sourcing from the industry, right? Industry experts who are very willing to nurture new talents in this space. And, we have been interviewing tens of different experts, and they're actually very, very keen on that. And the only thing is that they don't know how to mentor. So we're also going to be training them on that. Yeah.
Okay. And it's just me being Malaysian. Is it free?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're trying to make it as accessible as possible. And if there's any government stakeholders here, well, we definitely hope to partner with you to make that accessible, yeah, to others and make it free, right? And because the bottom line for us is social impact. Profit comes later. We know that if we can make that impact, the profit is just about sustainability to create more impact in the future. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, very good. All the best to you. And
Thank you.
If anyone interested, please be in contact with her. Okay. Is there any other? Okay, there's a gentleman over here. Feel free to go to the mic stand and present us your question or comment.
I'd just like to share some observations. First, thanks to the organizing chairman, Dr. Jesse, who has done a great job of attracting the right talent as presenters as well as participants. My only regret is no man was included in the panel. And there are rare males like me who are very interested in developing women leadership.
We need allies, yeah.
And in fact, in 2002, I was appointed as chairman of a newly established Islamic bank. And I had a CEO from London who was working with me as the CEO. And his observation then was, he told me, Vasihar, I'm not sure what is the reason, but your female executives are much better than the males I seem to be working with me.
I wonder why.
And from that talent pool of Islamic Bank, they have 4 or 5 who are CEOs of different banking institutions in the country now. And I'm also pleased to say that 5 digital banking licenses have been announced, and 2 CEOs of those digital banks will be women. So there is great hope for women leadership in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Very good. Yeah, it's very hopeful to hear that actually. And I guess like in the next round, we're going to maybe do a gender neutral summit. You never know. Before I close the session and asking the speakers to wrap it up, is there anyone who would like to share some thoughts? I'm trying my best to make it as interactive as possible. Anyone, anything to share? Maybe programs that you have or thoughts? Usually as teacher, what we do is that we just go to the table and like pass the mic, but I can't do that. So, okay, no voices. But I would like to thank those participants who actually came up and share your thoughts and questions. It's very helpful. Thank you for making it very engaging today. And with that, I'm going to close this session. And I would like to ask Miss Veronica, are you okay? She's still on the line. Do you have any like final thoughts when it comes to women participation in digital economy and technology?
Very brief. I think when we look at this topic, we need to understand that digital is not a standalone thing. Digital is a solution, is a modality, is way we can improve things, right? As a tool. So when we look at the digital as a tool, digital as a solution, we should consider that it can be a solution for any sector, vertically, horizontally, any thematic area, and understand how we bring women across those sectors. And then we have digital as an industry. And again, we need to keep in mind, how do we bring more women into the industry per se? And finally, just a brief recommendation, if you have not read The Invisible Women, Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men, I strongly recommend participants in the room to look for this book and read it, because it has fascinating examples and convinces us about why we need to have this inclusive ecosystem holistic approach in addressing not only digital but any development agenda today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Veronica. I would definitely go and find that book that you mentioned on Invisible Women. I think I've seen it before. I will run to Kinokuniya after this. Okay, with that, Miss Oyungerel, do you want to say anything? Final thoughts about women participation in digital economy. Okay.
Thank you so much.
I would like to invite the translator to be on the stage. This is interesting.
Okay. Бүгдэнд баярлалаа. Тэгээд үргэлжлүүлж ярьж байна.
Thank you for giving me a chance to have my voice heard. I believe that technologies have opened many doors or opportunities for not only women, but also for the whole society of the world for the past few years. However, there are a lot of us who are not being able to enter that door to seize those opportunities. For that reason, we need to create opportunities and those doors by collectively working together internationally. And I believe that this event is one of the vital events that is helping us to share ideas, create opportunities, and work together to create a meaningful improvement in women's participation in digital economy and technology internationally. And thus, it is important for us to get the most out of the new shared ideas that have been discussed at this event, so that we can spread awareness about women in technology to those who are unable to have access to technologies. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing the thoughts. And with that, I would like to end today's discussion. And thank you, Ms. Veronica, for being here virtually at 4 a.m. What's the time now in Vienna?
It's 4:40.
4:40. Wow. Thank you so much for the time and effort that you spent for this summit. We really appreciate it. And we wish you all the best together with Oyungerel. And with that, I would like to close today's session, and over to you, Roshan. Thank you.
Thank you, Venessa, and to our amazing panelists.